what happened,
I saw the video
yes,
yesterday.
yes,
So yeah.
there was the mistake.
We'll be
The board of
talking about that.
selectmen
Yeah.
Didn't have what they're calling the bond
Yeah.
hearing. So, the budget committee had their hearing.
Yeah.
We discussed it. We had, this is now a third meeting here.
Yeah.
To discuss it. There've been articles in the paper and a lot of people have been going out and talking
Yeah.
to people. So we're pretty confident people know it's coming and what we're voting for. And it will be, I mean, even today, Gordon has a lot more to discuss,
Yeah,
I'm
and-
sure.
So that's
But
going to be the
because
topic
that
of conversation.
glitch, because of the mistake that was made.
You mean you
if
can't
they
change the past?
Pardon
You
me?
cannot change the past?
Well,
No,
I have a time
No.
machine, but
can't change the past, but the state has given us steps to go forward to address
Yeah.
it. And it'll be up to the board of trustees and if they wanna do that.
Yeah.
So,
So my fear is that
How are you
people
doing?
who are dead set against it will use this, even if the town votes for it, to invalidate the vote. That's my concern.
the vote will
that
be
won't
valid.
the case.
Yeah.
The vote will be invalid.
Well,
The effect of the vote will have no legal.
wait until
No,
we start the
meeting
meeting
here?
here,
Right.
you know, what we do is then we have the hearings. And then we come back and have another town meeting to ratify.
Yeah, that I understood
Yeah.
that.
So there probably is a group of people in town
Yeah.
that would attempt to make that not happen.
Me,
You,
I'm gonna make it not happen.
but
Well,
you
yeah,
are
but-
a minority. And
You
so-
are a minority.
No.
Max,
In the town as a whole.
let's just stop,
Let's
okay?
stop.
I agree. Let's
I mean,
just stop.
I have to respect your
Yeah.
opinions, Max, but sometimes you just have to just stop. And just
I think-
breathe in, breathe out.
Maybe
Okay.
you guys should stop. You've been trying at this for so long, and the selectmen have failed you abjectly. I feel
Thanks,
bad
Max.
for you.
Thanks a whole lot.
I don't wanna, I'm really not anxious. to
Forget
start
what
the
happened.
meeting off on this foot, though.
That, we cannot change that. We agree
That's
on
right,
that.
we can't change it.
So we need to deal with the situation as it is now. That's my point. And that was my
There's a way to
question
do
now.
that.
No,
Sorry.
there isn't.
Yes, there is.
You're not
Max.
accepting reality.
Max, you're not an attorney. Come on, I know you might believe, but
You guys sick.
Are you an attorney?
no, but at least I asked the right questions.
I should never ask.
No, this is the perfect place to ask those kinds of questions and the trustees are the perfect people really to be answering them. You're welcome. I left my coffee up there.
There you go.
Thanks,
You're
Jack.
The gentleman, I'm just call it a thing.
So how's Gordon this morning?
Tired.
Okay.
I thought he looked well rested when he came in, but he didn't. He said he didn't sleep.
I slept well last week. Well, we're scheduled to start at 10 o'clock, but you know, I think I'm just gonna begin. This is our third meeting that we've had to discuss the addition. We have a slideshow presentation, but based on what's happened in the last week, I think I wanna, before I even go through with this, I think I wanna let you all know what has transpired. And it has come to the attention of the community that we have two problems coming up before us at town meeting. The first problem is really what I consider to be a minor problem, and that is the placement of the two library oriented articles and their placement on the warrant. If you get the town report, and if you look on the warrant, you'll see that Article 3 is a vote to change the wording of the existing capital reserve funds that we have set up by the town. Presently, they read they can only be used for a new building. And in order to do our addition, we are going to have to change that wording to say new building / and or additions and renovations. This all came about because last spring, Skip Hurt, a local citizen, came to the trustees with a thought of foregoing the new building across the street and doing an addition. We did some studying on that. We talked to our architects. They said, yeah, well, we can take a look at it, but you can't look at something like that for free. And there was about $16,000 involved in getting the plans, as you see over here, to where we are at this point now. They had done up 5 different sets of scenarios for us, and this is the one that the trustees decided to go with. We went to the selectmen and said, all right, here's where we are. We'd like to take $16,000 out of the existing capital reserve funds, at which point we found out that we could not do that. Because, as I said, the existing capital reserve fund is just for a new building. That's why that has to be changed. So consequently, we're going to have to, and the selectmen and their thinking when they set up the warrant was saying that if you have to change the warrant article, okay, to reflect the change of use for this capital reserve fund, logic would say that you would put that ahead of the actual vote for the new building, because we need that $416,000 plus by in order to do the project. They put that at number 3, and then they put the actual vote at number 4. Come to find out that you cannot do that, because all articles in excess of $100,000 that will bind the town for years down the road have to be presented first. So that will be explained at town meeting how this has to be flip-flopped. In retrospect, that's a fairly minor problem to deal with. The major problem is that in order to have a vote at town meeting and have it be effective at town meeting, there has to be a public hearing on that warrant a minimum of 15 days before town meeting. The selectmen inadvertently did not post and did not advertise a hearing for that. So we're now in a situation that if we vote on this on Wednesday night and it is successful, then we have to call for a second town meeting this spring. And the reason being is that you're going to have, before that meeting, you're going to have to post and advertise a bond hearing. You're going to have to post and advertise a warrant to say what's on the warrant, and then the actual vote. None of that can transpire until after April 5th. And in order to do, if it's successful, that's what we're going to have to do. If it's not successful at town meeting, then it's moot, because we won't have to take any further. We're in kind of a horns of a dilemma right now, because an awful lot of work has gone into this, an awful lot of fundraising has been, effort has been to go forward with this project, but quite frankly, at this juncture, we're meeting, it's a clerical error which has caused an awful lot of problems. And I don't know else how to explain it better than that. Oh, Marianne?
Well, what do you think about this fix that they discussed yesterday or whenever it happened? See, I have some. If I were against the library, I'm for the library. I just want to be clear about that. If I were against the library, like this young gentleman over there, then I would seek legal counsel to see if whatever this fix presents might invalidate any vote.
Well, we have selectmen have contacted the State Municipal Association, and we have documentation from their attorneys telling us what the process is involved. The process is
Yes.
as I had just described. There is now some conjecture that it's going to take half of the registered voters to come in approval of at a second town meeting in order to pass it. Town moderator feels that no, that's not correct because we are not revoting on this, we are ratifying the vote. We will, however, in advance of Wednesday, be contacting the municipal association lawyers to find out if this is indeed the case. Quite frankly, if that is the case, then I don't think it could be successful because it would take approximately 975 people because of the 1,973 would have to come to the meeting and vote. Carl?
And when you ratify, my understanding was you are not ratifying the library. It's simply ratifying the vote
Yes.
on the library. So if the vote passes, then
Actually passing out the copy of the RSA.
The RSA in question, yeah.
But as I say, we're going to
Anybody else?
we're definitely going to have to we will be in contact on Monday.
yes.
Find out if that is the case. If that is the case, I would be quite surprised if it would be in the best interest of the town to move forward. Because under those circumstances, I don't think we could win. Yes.
I believe this is the case. If you come to the conclusion that it is the case, I would like to suggest a compromise, which I would vote for, which is instead of taking out it's roughly $1 million loan, right?
Less than that now.
Just under, we just
Mhm.
found out. We have 400,000 in the library capital reserve, roughly 400 in the donations fund and the pledges. So roughly 800 to 900.
What's actually over, it's closer to, what's our figure now, Christie, you figure?
There's over 500,000 in private pledges and donations and 417,000 in the capital reserve.
So just over $1 million.
Just under.
Just under.
Just under.
I would like to suggest that somebody in this group, not me, at town meeting, amend Article 4, or whichever number it is, the library article. You can take out a $99,000 loan without the bond hearing. You can do, or $99,999. Skip's plan was more like in 1.1, 1.2 range.
Skip's plan was in Skip's mind.
Well,
It
whatever.
never costed the plan out.
Okay, forget about the plans.
Mhm.
At town meeting this year, I would vote for this, and other people would too. Just take the money that you have and do something with it. That would only require a majority vote. If what you actually want is to renovate this, what I think is a very nice library, which could use some renovation, let's just do it this year.
But it doesn't
Let's
do
do
the
it.
job.
Well,
And you have an opinion.
that is my
Everybody in this room
opinion.
has an opinion.
As
That does not do
as
the job.
as Marianne correctly pointed out yesterday, I should say it's my feeling.
I was gonna give you a thumbs up for starting that this morning.
I just don't,
If what you want is to do something for the library, let's do it.
but I
If
think
what you want, if you're attached to a huge, big library,
I think
you need to let go of that.
I think I missed
because
your
it's
point.
not gonna
You
happen
wanna-
this year.
You wanna just spend $1 million on renovation?
Because we can do that this year with a majority vote.
Then that's not part of this.
But it doesn't do the job.
It doesn't do the
Building
job
doesn't-
that you
The
are
building-
attached to.
This building.
It would be a
Excuse
compromise.
me, this building does
Yes.
not need $1 million worth of renovation. The $1 million of renovation we need is to do the addition and the renovations. All right. And I respect your opinion. I
I'm
don't
just
agree with
I'm
it,
just
but
saying this would be a compromise. You wouldn't get everything that you want, and I don't think that we need to spend $1 million on this building. So I wouldn't be getting everything that I want. It would be a compromise.
That's right.
How does this cost here of a couple $1 million compare to what was allocated for the last proposal for the total new building in a new location?
The last proposal was for 2,000,003.
2.4,
2.4.
2.4 expected with inflation since that time to be 2.6 today.
Which is quite frankly one of the reasons we went with we wanted to go with the renovation addition, because we figured, at least me, in my mind, I thought, okay, we're getting what we feel the community needs for the library, but we're still leaving a fair amount on the table for the other needs the community is going to be facing. Obviously, something to do with the police facility.
I think the number, Gordon, was about $400,000 that you save on the police project by vacating this building to do the project across the street. So that kind of needs to get figured into that also.
That was factored in. However, when they did the study to do what this building could be used for as a police department, they were doing it based to fill the space that they had here.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't been involved in the police study. Perhaps they don't need this space or this configuration of space. That's going to be something that's going to have to be studied in the next year. So that, in a nutshell, is where we are. We're pending legal opinion, what we can do and what we can't do.
I just wanted to say there are a lot of questions about if this is simply a want by a small group of people or if it truly is a need. And it is so clearly spelled out. You've had, 3 different consulting companies come in, look at this space and what we're trying to do. And they consistently say they can't believe you're able to do what you're able to do in this small of a space. And we also have to look at what is your definition of a library, and depend on the department heads and the board of trustees in regards to their needs. It isn't about you want to see a big library with a cupola, or I want to see nice landscaping, or it's not about wants. It's about investing in our community and in our residents.
That's right.
Want and need has been thrown around on this subject for years. But the fact of the matter is, it's an investment in the town. It's what, and if you're not willing to invest in your infrastructure, then eventually, we're going to become a wide spot in the road. People, a library, a good library is a key component for a good town. And that has been proven over and over again. Harry?
I use the library. I use the library for what I call junk reading, stuff that I just enjoy and read, but I also use the library for some serious stuff. And it has happened to me now a number of times. I started reading certain section, and then I come back next week, and the following book is not here anymore. So when I asked what happened, well, we ran out of space. We sent the books, they have sent somewhere. So my option is very simple. If this doesn't happen soon, I found out, I went to Martinborough, I can join the library there. It will cost me some money. The same goes to Wolfboro. And looking at the library in Martinborough, that looks pretty, they have a pretty good selection of books. But why should I go to another town? So, and I have seen the impact of the library on my children, who turned out a lot more or better educated than I was because they started out with the library from early age on. I think it's very important that we do something about the library, not just staying in this place and throwing some paint on it. That's my opinion.
And the fact of the matter is, we're never gonna be able to do it for less money. There have been, people have made proposals, well, why don't we just keep adding to the capital reserve every year, adding to the capital reserve on a yearly basis until we get to that point where you have enough money to build it. Well, that's all well and good, but we add to the capital reserve on this side, and then we have inflation on this side. So you're never gonna be able to catch up in the meanwhile, 10 years, 12 years from now, when we have
Yeah.
that pool of money, what has the town lost in the interim? Yes, Ruth?
I just wanted to respond to something Max said earlier about it's a small group that want to have the library is not actually true, because at town meeting, just because we're not an SB2 town, we've had over 60% and well over at times percent of the vote yes for the library. So in fact is that more people in the town want this addition or renovation or expansion, whatever we want to call it, of the library. So what you said wasn't really true. Do you agree?
May I respond to that? In 2015, the last time that the library article was brought forward, there were, I believe it was 325 votes in favor, which was about 60%, I believe.
It was.
That's more than half of the
Yeah.
town by a lot. That's 10% more
More
than
than,
half the town.
more than half of the people who were
Who
able
vote.
to be there and vote.
Yeah. We have last year, the last checklist from 2017, we had 1,973 registered voters. So 325 was a majority of people, as Terry just said, who were able to come to town meeting.
And that's a parallel.
I absolutely don't dispute that there were a majority of the minority who came to town meeting.
Right.
And it may very well be that if every registered voter showed up, that the majority of them would vote for the library. I don't know that one way or the other.
Neither.
So I
But
would not
all
claim
we can
to.
work with is what legally we have, and that's
Right.
2/3
I absolutely agree
to
that
town meeting.
clearly a majority of the people who come to town meeting have voted for it. But at the same time, it's an absolute solid fact that a minority of people come to town meeting. And I wish that we, no matter what somebody's opinion is, that they would come to town meeting, because it's only once a year. It's not that much of a commitment. And I wish that
Well, your
we had.
wishes can.
No, I understand. I'm just
Or
saying.
mine.
I'm just saying the fact is, and we don't need to belabor this, I'm sorry, I've already said it. A minority comes to town.
Well, where might you hold this town meeting with 1,900 people in this town?
Well,
I mean, in all seriousness.
no, it's a
I mean, it's a very
legitimate
serious
question.
issue.
It's a legitimate
It
question,
is
but
a
by
legitimate
law, we are not, I'm sorry, can I,
That's all right.
we are not required to hold town meeting in town if there isn't a facility that's large enough. So we could hold it, I don't know, at Kingswood or something. But I mean, that presents other problems.
I don't know.
Currently, we don't really have a need to hold it somewhere else because people don't come. So,
Yes, Rob.
Yeah, do you mind discussing, or you or someone in the room knows needs versus wants? I mean, I get the point of the want. How about the need part of it? What do we as the town need specifically?
Well, what this building, what the town needs, and what this building needs is not necessarily, is people space. This is,
I'm sorry, what?
is space for people,
Those people stuff.
okay? This building is, this meeting room is it. There are a lot of people who like to use this meeting room who can't because of the space constrictions. Somebody said that we could put 45 people in here. There'd be 45 people in here with a shoehorn. I don't think we have 45 chairs. Moving around the stacks is difficult. The building is not ADA compliant, okay, which is just in my opinion, is a time bomb waiting for it to happen. All you have to do is look and see what the cost to the town of Wolfboro when they decide, when the individual really started making an issue of ADA. Awful lot of handicapped spaces downtown that weren't there before. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be there, but that's just a fact. Right?
We had several, I've been a member of the Board of Trustees for, I think, 10 years now. And we have had several people come through this library and do a space needs study. And the amount of space that we would be adding is just what we need. And that's by a professional space needs study person. And the point is that, as Gordon says, we need people space. You know, I was kind of offended by one of the letters to the editor when they were talking about that we need more technology in here. Well, we have one of our desk clerks is a master in technology, and if he's standing there and he's got a person with a computer and he's trying to work with that person, if he has 2 or 3 people, that's a lot of space that is taken up. It's not the books that we need the space for, it's the people that we need the space for, that are going to come in and use the library. But, you know,
Well, do we need 5,000 more feet for that? I guess is a question.
Well, you have to look and see
Do
how
And I'm sort of neutral on this whole thing. I'm just here trying to get a lot of pros and cons, one
when
way
you
or
look
the other.
when you look at the plans, you'll see that that about a third of that addition is bathrooms in the meeting room. So as far as room for books, yes, we do need more room for books. Mr. Moderator is here.
It's also a dedicated children's area, which,
Right.
the children's area that we have out here right now is pretty
Is
cramped.
that for little kids like when
Yes.
the adults are here using the library?
There's
the
also a
play
teen
area?
adult section.
It's also a
There's-
teen
right.
section, and
Oh,
it's the, it's for all age kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say, jumping off that, I come to both this library and the Molten Borough Library. I have 2 kids who are under 3. And when I come to this library, I have to, and it literally is a space issue, I have to hurry as quickly as I can to get all of the books that I wanna take out because it's such a small area in the kids section, my kids start pulling books off the shelf. Like they have, puzzles and toys and things for the kids, but it's just such a cramped space. If you go over to Molten Borough and take a look at their children's section, it has a big, wide area for the kids to play in. It has a train table, it has a little puppet theater, it has all these things. So when I'm there, I have maybe 20 minutes or so to pick up books while my kids are occupied, and I can see them the whole time. But it literally is just a space issue.
They still love it when you come.
Oh yeah, I do love them. No, they're a little crazy.
I think this is wonderful to hear this because when I think of the definition of a library, it certainly isn't the definition of a library 20 years ago or 30 years ago. This is the hub and our only hub that we have in Tufton Borough where people can join and participate in a variety of activities and presentations, and I love that you've got little ones. It's just
Rob, could I ask you a question? Do you come to the library during the day?
Me?
Yeah.
No,
Drop in sometime.
other than to donate books.
Well, drop in sometime.
I've done that a few times.
Drop
Where do you
in
get those
sometime in
books?
the middle of the morning and take a look at what's going on out at the newspaper table out there. And see the number of people who are doing that. Watch people come in and out, take books. You'll see a meeting going on in here. You may have story hour going on or the kids playing out here. They don't use glitter anymore because
Glitter is banned.
Christmas time, we have an event for the kids where the Polar Express gets right here and the room fills
It's
up with
packed.
youngsters and parents. It is the living room of the community. There is no other place like it in town. Books to me are ancillary to this as opposed to what it provides the town as a place for people to come and within their own town do things that they like to do together, or people who may work at home and need a little socialization, come on down just to chat. This isn't a quiet library.
I just would like to get back to Max and
Yeah.
address what your idea of $99,000 expenditure.
Yeah.
Well, how
Well,
much-
not total, but yeah.
No,
Yeah.
$99,000 to get a bond, to get moving on this and just keep adding on. Well, do you have any concept of how much it's gonna cost to get the plans? I mean, these plans cost what, Gordon? You
That's
remember?
$16,500.
$16,000. So $16,000.
Well, not just that plan,
Right,
all the work that went to
I
that
understand,
point with the other
yeah.
incantations
So-
that went to.
We're, I mean, we've already spent $16,000 here. We spent money to get the plans for the building across the street. And for those of you that are as old as I am, we spent money to get the plans for the building
But
that was up back there. But
Yeah.
now we spent all this money and we just keep saying, oh, well, we'll just do another plan, And people criticize us for this. We're criticized because we didn't have any place else when we first built this, we're talking about building this building up here. That plan came across the street and we had a plan for this building. The selectmen said, well, that would be good because then we could use this. We can keep making plans until I'm 6 feet under, but
Well,
I would
I
like
hope
to
that's
see
a very
the
long time
library
from now.
built.
Very long time from now.
Well, I don't know about that.
One more, Carl, then I want to have Dan.
Okay, and I just want, for those of you that haven't, maybe new to this group, that haven't looked closely at those plans, it's the open floor plan that is a real plus because that says to the people of Tufton Borough, you may make this building whatever you need it to be. Nothing permanent is going to be in the meeting room area, that kind of thing.
We
So
haven't
it's-
bought a piece of
very
furniture that's not on
looking
wheels for
forward to
about
the
10 years.
future is really the goal there.
When you say that, do you mean that those walls in there are not structural? Is that what you're referring to, or just?
The walls are structural,
But all the furniture moves.
but the
Backs can
you can
move.
move it and make it anything, any
Like
room
in
you
this
want.
area. Correct?
In the whole building.
And the back,
Everything
yeah.
can move.
I see.
Dan's joined us, of course, as moderator. Dan, I was describing to people how we started this morning.
Yeah.
A bit of a pickle that we're in as far as votes and things like that. I was explaining to them the potential for a revote. If we're successful, how we're going to have a second meeting and the 2 steps prior to doing that.
Gordon?
Are we correct?
They didn't hear what was going on.
Yeah, what's going on with the vote?
Oh, I'm sorry.
rewind.
Rewind.
Sorry.
We have a problem with the fact that the selectmen elected to post a notice, a bond hearing, all right, for the vote on Wednesday for the library. Okay. Therefore, if a vote is in favor, the vote is good. The vote is in favor, but we still have to have a second meeting to ratify that vote. If I'm correct. Tell me when I'm mistaken, because that's why you make the big money.
Wait, we pay him?
And also the fact that there is we have to flip flop Article 3 and Article 4 because it turns out that Article 4 has to be dealt with first because that binds the indebtedness of the town for the life of a loan. Article 3, of course, is changing the wording to for our existing capital reserves to go from just a new building to a building and or renovations. So that's the short story.
The bottom line is the articles as posted in the warrant have 2 defects. The order in which they're posted and the lack of a public hearing on the issue as required by law. We have sought advice from the New Hampshire Municipal Association, who has a team of legal beagles to aid towns in situations like this. And they have described a procedure by which procedural defects can be legalized, can be cured. And it's in the RSA, it's a very specific RSA to allow towns, cities, school districts some method to correct a procedural defect without having to go to the Superior Court and call for a special meeting, which previously was the case. So I have legal opinions from Steve Buckley and from Margaret Burns, two of the lawyers, both of whom are in agreement as to the procedure that would need to be followed. Basically, what Gordon described. A vote must be taken at the March 14th meeting. Action must be taken on the bond issue or the note issue first, the library article first, and then subsequent to that vote, if successful, then the selectmen will set a date for a special meeting. A special meeting is for one purpose only, one single purpose only. It is simply an article to ratify the actions of the voters at the March 14th meeting.
Now
In
that, we should just,
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm clear. We're ratifying the vote. We are not revoting on the already passed warrant.
That's correct. That's correct. And then in the interim, between the special meeting, it has to be at least 3 weeks away from the town meeting. So in that interim period, public hearing would be held on the article, and then the notices get posted as they should be. So, but it's a very specific procedure, and it comes directly from the legal beagles at NHMA.
Two-thirds majority on both votes?
I'm sorry?
Two-thirds majority on both
Two-thirds
votes?
majority on both votes, and both votes are by secret ballot. Yes.
And do we, for instance, at the second vote, if you don't get the same number of voters coming into the room, you still get the 2/3 vote? That doesn't have anything to do
The
with
law
it,
is
does
quite
it?
clear that the 2/3 is calculated based on the number of votes cast
That day.
that day. That's correct.
Good.
So a no vote is simply that. It's not included in the calculation for 2/3.
Okay.
Go ahead.
May I read from the relevant RSA,
Go ahead.
which is 31.5. You can look it up on the New Hampshire
Yeah.
State website. At special meetings, paragraph 1, no money shall be raised or appropriated, or shall any appropriation previously made be reduced or rescinded at any special town meeting, except by vote by ballot, nor unless the ballots cast at such meeting shall be equal in number to at least 1/2 the number of legal voters born on the checklist of the town entitled to vote at the annual or biennial election next preceding such special meeting. So I presume that means Tuesday's election, right? However many.
I was not familiar with the language. I saw the
Yeah.
post this morning. I didn't do anything to. I've never seen that language.
It's in the law.
What is the word? The next.
The next preceding election.
Next
It's a little
preceding,
confusing, but it means the most recent, closest.
I think the point
previous.
is. I think the point is that the special meeting that council has referred to is not a meeting to appropriate funds. It's not a meeting to change the appropriate funds. It's simply a meeting to ratify a vote.
I think that is very dubious, because it would allow any special meeting to overturn any vote at town meeting that was not valid, or it would allow special meetings for just a few people to show up and to change what happened at town meeting. And I don't think that this will be permissible. And if you go down this course, I'm just telling you now, because look, if nothing else, I know a lot of you don't really like me, but if nothing else, I'm pretty straightforward. If you go down this course, I will file a lawsuit against the town to prevent this from happening, because it's not legal if you ratify a vote. You have to have a vote to appropriate the money. You can't have the vote to appropriate the money before the bond hearing, then have the bond hearing,
Have you
then
discussed
have a
this?
vote.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Have you discussed this with any lawyers?
Sorry?
Have you discussed this with any legal counsel or lawyers and gotten their interpretation?
I will be filing a lawsuit against the town to prevent this action from going through if you follow this procedure. If, however, one of you proposes the amendment that I suggested earlier, I will vote for it. And Dan wasn't here, so I'll just repeat it. We have around $1 million at our disposal. We can take out a loan at town meeting for $99,000 to add to what we already have, and we can get something done on the library this year, or get the process going and start construction next year, whenever it is. But we can get this done. Sorry, I apologize.
That's right.
I'm just saying, do you want to get it done? Because we can get it done.
Your way.
No, it's not my way, because I don't want to do anything. This is a compromise. I am willing to compromise here.
Okay, we will be getting on Monday
Okay.
legal opinion, okay, on the RSA as you have presented.
And may I ask that whatever that advice is, can we get it out? Can I help you get it out? No matter what it is, even if it goes against me, I will help put it out.
We're happy to.
I would caution you that there's always that disclaimer, and I'm not opposed to you getting it out any way you can if we have a firm legal opinion on it. Certainly we want to promulgate that. But they always come with a caveat
Sure.
that this is attorney-client privilege between their client, which is the governing body, the selectmen.
Right, which they can waive if they actually.
Which they can waive,
yeah.
which they can waive. And
Yeah.
I hope they would.
Yeah.
But I just,
Well,
want to make that clear that there is that caveat.
for you people who are in favor of the library, I hope you've learned that you shouldn't rely on the selectmen.
It's just a matter of form. I'm not disagreeing with you, not disagreeing with anything other than the fact that I have checked with the lawyers and I have a legal opinion that says there is a legal procedure that would correct the procedural errors.
And if you
Well, we're
follow
gonna-
it and it passes, I will do everything in my power to block it, because it would not be legal.
Well,
No need for that. I mean, I'm just stating
Yes,
a fact.
I'm sorry, I had to leave to the restroom, but I have a question. Did you answer his question, Max? Have you had legal advice and legal counsel with regard to that?
I'm telling
See, I
you.
watch Judge Judy, and she
You
always
answer the
says, "Answer my question."
Yeah,
Here's my legal beagle. Have you had any legal counsel, or is this you're reading the RSAs and interpreting them? I'm just curious. Did you answer that
I
question?
have read the RSAs,
Okay.
and I am going to talk to my attorney
Okay.
on Monday.
Okay.
And the last time my attorney went up against the town's attorney, I won.
Okay.
but
I-
Max, do you think it's really conducive to a good community to always threaten to sue people?
Really?
The only time that I have ever been in a lawsuit, the town sued me. The selectmen sued me to try to
But that's
impinge my
gone.
rights.
That's done. Let's, let that be
I am
done.
telling you,
All right, we're kind of,
Whatever.
we're kind of getting off course.
exactly, Gordon's right. I mean, I've made my point.
I want to get back to the subject of the matter.
Good.
Well, the subject at hand is, as I said, we have reading materials here, rather than going through the slideshow, but that's where we are. Okay, and where we're gonna have to go from here.
Do we have an accurate number on the very generous pledges that we have as of, oh, God. Oh, I'm sorry, David, you wanted to tell me.
Confirmed progress pledges as of yesterday. $211,600. That's in pledges and gifts in kind.
We,
Gifts in kind mean that people have generously come forward to offer materials to go into the new building, which that's not a inconsequential little number. We've had a great week. $30,000 coming yesterday.
That's great.
when I look at the number of people pledging large amounts of money towards this cause, and the fact that we consistently get 60%, in favor. It just tells me that, well, okay, the minority may not want it or want it in a different way, but the majority sure does. It's just getting to that
And
super
the fact of the matter
majority.
is that unless people come out and vote on
Yeah, I mean,
Wednesday
they're
evening,
voting with
it's
their
all moot.
dollars
Yeah.
this time around. It's exciting.
There's another indication of support too, and that's the fact that since the Capital Reserve Fund was established in 2010, in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2016, and 2017, really over $350,000 was voted into that Capital Reserve Fund.
Mhm.
The first three times there was no discussion and no questions. It was unanimous.
Right.
To me, that's another
May I just have a
indication of
look? I
support.
return it to you right
Oh,
away.
yes,
Thank you.
yes.
That's where we are. Any questions I can answer for anybody that might not have been dealt with this morning, that you might have?
Gordon, was it a oversight? I mean, I'm not sure I understand how the selectmen did not call for the, the
I have to
review,
believe it was
because
oversight.
I understand that because we were requesting less than the bond, less than a bond would be, and that we could get it through a bank, through a mortgage rather than a bond, that the bond was not necessary.
How you finance
That's what
it,
I
how you finance it is irrelevant.
Right.
Okay.
It was just,
so
like,
that's
I just have to say it was an oversight.
It was an accident, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody meant not to do it.
It all makes sense.
Exactly.
I racked my brain for the last 2 days. I said, how come I'm looking at the dates these things, and I realized that the last two bond hearings for this, I wasn't even in the country. 2 years that we had.
Right.
That's how I missed it. So I'm not apologizing
No.
to the trustees because it's not our job. It was the selectmen's
Right, I
job.
know.
If this goes forward, I know one of the questions a lot of people always ask is, how much is this going to cost me every year in my tax bill?
Funny you should ask that question. We are blessed this morning with our town treasurer, Jack Whitmer.
Hi, Jack.
Hi, how are you? It is very, very hard to nail it down exactly, but the numbers that we've looked at, based on it right now, a 2.5% interest rate that Northwood Bank has offered for a 7-year bond. The estimate that I've come up with is about $45 a year for a $300,000 house.
For how many?
About a $300,000 value on the house, about $45 a year. But you can't really nail that down because the property values change and new construction gets added in. The state's going to set the town valuation, and also, based on what we know, that's an approximate number. So if you look at that over the course of 7 years times $45, you're looking at a little over $300 for a $300,000 house. Again, that's
And for those individuals that often say, well, we have all this money in our undesignated fund balance, which we know is just
be
out
happy
there
to explain,
somewhere.
be happy to explain that
Yeah.
again.
But we have taken $350,000 to lower the taxes for this year. And I think some people are confused by, okay, our municipalities' taxes represent about 25% of the taxes you pay. But the amount of money that we should hold in an undesignated fund balance isn't based on our 25%.
Correct, it's
It's-
based on everything from the school taxes to the town taxes to the county taxes. So you're talking about a percentage of $11.5 million, $12 million of total town taxes that are being paid. And the state DRA recommends between 5 and 10% to be kept. The government accounting office recommends 7 to 18%. So there's a wide range of what they're, what's being recommended. We currently have about $1.1 million, a little over $1.1 million.
Yeah, and I think we might be getting, this might be the first time we might be getting just a little low.
And I think what people have to understand is
that
the
money.
undesignated fund balance is not in a separate checking account someplace.
Exactly.
It's our operating cash flow that we use as we move through the year without having to borrow additional funds. And that's important to note. I mentioned the last time I explained this that I'm going to say 2 or 3 years ago, our tax bills went out late in November as opposed to early November. And our taxes due for the county are due on the 17th of December by state RSA. And we got a bill in for those taxes the 1st of December, due on the 17th of about $1.2 million. I'm looking at our checking account, and we have $800,000 in our checking account. But by law, we have to pay that bill on December 17th. Fortunately, the cash flow from tax revenue comes in fairly quickly the first week or two. So we got about $800,000 in the first week and a half. So by the time that bill came through, we had about $1.6 million to pay that $1.2 million bill. And fortunately, the school district also gives us a rotating schedule of payments. So the December payment for the school district was only about $300,000. But the payment in January and February are $900,000 because they know you've gotten your tax money in at that point in time. So the money goes into one account, but it's our operating cash flow. If we didn't have any capital undesignated reserve balance, we probably have a line of credit at the bank or something that we'd be able to draw on when we didn't have the money to pay our bills.
And I guess that's my,
It's all working capital.
Yeah.
that's my concern when we talk about, oh, let's take all this money out of our undesignated fund balance and put a big addition on the library, but not have to go to the people.
I mean, it's gonna come back to bite you somewhere along the line,
Yeah.
because I know there were, at the candidates night, there was questions about the budget process and why you're always over budgeting and all that. And, I've been on the finance committee of the school district for 20 years.
Right.
And you don't budget to the penny, you can't. And even the state now has allowed school districts to keep 2.5% of their budget as a undesignated fund balance, because you can never know what exactly going to happen, what emergencies are going to come up, or what's going to happen. A bill comes in that's a little more than you need. So you budget as close as you can, and if you have extra money, you can. If your undesignated reserve balance is at that point where you're comfortable, then you can return all the money back for taxes to reduce taxes. But it's it's a complicated issue, but again, it's not money that's just socked away for some rainy day fund. It's what we use every day to pay our bills.
The cash flow.
How you doing, Jack? My question to you is, do you have any figures as far as what the actual cost to the taxpayers would be to, not just to purchase the library, but to run it? Does anybody run an operating budget?
I personally haven't added the additional, but I know they have done the numbers as part of the presentation.
We estimate it's going to be approximately another $6,300 a year, and that is in heat and light maintenance. Okay. More maintenance comes in, cleaning comes in the maintenance figure. But what does not go up is the payroll, because we have the building designed trying to keep, and so we don't have to add any more staff, because heat and light costs you money. It's no big secret. If you look at the town, Putnam Borough's budget, we're a payroll-driven business. So, but no more payroll. So,
How long have you forecast that payroll projection of?
what, with no addition?
Yes.
I don't know how long I can say that. How many years before we need another policeman? All I can say is that for the near term, we're not going to be adding any payroll. There is no plan for that.
It's just the same as any other function in the town. It's not how the cost will go, pretty much.
Could you repeat that?
It's pretty much like every other, like the fire and the police. Their salaries, you can expect them to go up by inflation plus step increases for.
Yeah, salaries. My bigger concern would be additional staff.
No additional staff plan.
Population is flatline.
Well, I don't know if it's flatline, but it's not going up fast. But we did have 23 buildings, new houses, I believe.
Yeah,
last
but
year.
I'm talking about population, not new buildings.
Well, the fact of the matter is, long and the short, no, we're not adding staff.
You have a healthy volunteer circle that comes in and
A volunteer what?
people that come in and volunteer at the library to lend a hand.
Yeah.
We could use more.
And actually, next year, 4 out of 6 staff members will be at the top of the pay scale, so that's not gonna go up very much anymore.
Jack, is the interest rate tied to the size of the loan?
No.
No.
No, if the interest rate is only tied to the amount of years, so.
Okay.
Currently it's 2.3 for 5 years, 2.5 for 7 years, and 2.75 for 10 years. That's what Northway Bank has locked us in at for this year. All right, obviously, if something doesn't happen, who knows where the interest rates are going to go. I don't anticipate. Northway Bank has been very aggressive in municipalities and being very favorable.
Right.
They were the winning bank for the fire station. They were also the winning bank when we bought the Gould property years ago. So they've been our go-to bank for the most part for interest rates.
Good investment for them because we'll probably pay them back.
They don't have too many issues for whether we're going to pay our bills.
Yeah.
Jack, will it make any difference if we have to have the bond hearings? I mean, that's a longer time. Will the bank?
No, they basically said we've already put together and sent them the last 2 audited financial statements and last year's and this year's town report, which is what they required for approval of the loan. So if it passes and everything happens, even if it's a month or so down the road, they said those are the interest rates that will be locked in.
And it was, sorry, Carl.
No, go ahead, Max.
$45 per year.
Again,
vaguely, I understand it's
vaguely
very.
for house value at
Yeah.
$300,000. It's an estimate that's about $45 a year and that's like 7-year financing. 5 years will be a little bit more, 10 years will be a little bit less. But overall, when you look at the whole process, it's going to be about $300, give or take a little bit for a $300,000 house over whatever.
Over what the period is, okay.
Yeah.
But so if we took a $99,000 loan, which we can do with a majority vote at town meeting, it would be
$450,
around $450.
Just a point, because I asked the question, why a $300,000 house? And I believe that is roughly the median value of a home in Tuftonboro.
Correct. So we wanted to pick
so
something
half,
that was
half the homes in Tuftonboro are worth more than 300,000, half are worth less than 300,000. But that's the median, it's 300 grand.
That seems like a good
I was just asking Jack wanted to ask Jack if you've crunched the numbers, the total tax impact for if all the warrant articles had passed. Some people have asked that.
I have not done that.
I haven't done that either, but I was just.
Is that $45 the interest payment, or is that interest?
No, that's
and
principal and interest. And again, ordinarily, usually when towns borrow money, they usually do what's called a fixed principal loan. So the principal is the same every year, and so actually the payments start a little bit higher and they go down over the course.
Right.
But you don't have to do that. You can have a fixed payment, and the fixed payment then would be steady each year. Again, you're not talking. I think when I looked at the interest calculation between on a 7-year, whether it be fixed principal, fixed interest, the total interest over the course of the 7 years, the difference was maybe $2,000 or $3,000.
Yeah.
Just because of the way you're paying it.
It's also
It was
short.
significant.
That $45 is based on how many taxpayers?
It's based on the current value of the properties in Tuftonboro. Has no idea. It doesn't matter how many taxpayers there actually
So
are.
it's based on a dollar amount of the real estate value
Correct.
of the town.
Correct.
That seems low if I multiply it in my head.
Well,
There's $1 billion assessed value, so it actually makes that kind of easy to do.
Yeah.
By factor of 10,
Yeah.
but you can figure it out.
It's $450,000.
Well, if you figure $1 million loan over 7 years, that's like 130,000, something like that. So that's $13 plus the interest.
Jack, if we add to the tax base, it ends up reducing the effect?
Absolutely. All of the numbers that we talk about, whenever we're talking about, the effective tax rates, it's at today's value of the
Right.
town. So as long as no new houses are built, no new construction happens, nothing is added to the tax base, that's approximately what you're gonna pay. With new construction, somebody mentioned when new house was built last year.
Sure.
You're gonna add to the property values of towns, so that number would obviously come down, but where the new values would be.
Right. Right, because it spreads across a bigger base.
But you're talking about, one moment in time that says, this is the value today, and this is what your tax bill is gonna look like tomorrow, if, or next month when a new house comes on the market and it's added to the tax base, it changes. Right.
Thank you, Jack. Anything else to remind you folks on? We have some handout materials for those people who have not seen it. Things up to now, but thank you for coming this morning, and thank you in advance for coming on Wednesday night. We appreciate and look forward to your
Show your
support.
friends. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
They don't charge.
Committee, well, what I like about it is it costs $45 every
I
year.
decided to take a year off. My husband hasn't been as healthy as
Okay,
I'd
I
like.
don't know that much, but
I'm going to take a year off from town college.
sure.
Is this RSA handout you have over here? Is this is it right here?
And you can, if you wanna do
A little bit of your life back.
Thank you very much. Mike,
I mean,
Yeah, we both decided not to. I think what we do because that's canceling each other out.
Unnoticed, we don't.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you. I'll have
Thank you.
There's sometimes.
I think I said don't like, but.
Well, there are several times when I wish that you would.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, I to look at something in a minute. There's a chair there. It's very prepared. Oh, really?
Did you get it?
Well,
No.
I
didn't even know.
So then obviously.
Hey, how are ya?
Jack,
Well, you? Good. How's renting going?
Renting going?
Well,
and I
always, but we're buying a house for those probably a week and a half. You are?
Sure, from a house to another.
I'm not
I mean, it's a lot smaller than
my
we have.
perception of my role to have as few
But,
opinions as I
it
possibly
was one of
can.
those things, we looked at everything that's come up.
If I have any consistency is I'm inclined to take people at their word. They say is what they mean. And certainly try to keep the, no, you can't. And I certainly try to keep at least communication channels available with all opinions.
the situation really
Well,
was.
I only know that.
That's why I don't hate you.
It's our last Speaking.